Hello and welcome to our video today on adjusting stock. And so if you saw our last video, we went over how to add stock, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go over how to actually adjust that stock, whether you need to increase it or decrease it, how you go about doing that. And so here we are on our inventory item list, and we can see over on the navigation bar we've just got this expanded here under inventory, and then we've selected our inventory items. And here's our inventory, and what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to adjust some stock. And so just like in our previous video where we added stock, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to come over here and we're going to say adjust quantity. So with that, I'm going to click that button. It's going to open up our adjust quantity screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on this and we're going to put the date that we're adjusting the quantity. And now the date that you're adjusting quantity, it's important that you know what that date is for when you decide what date to use. For Modius, it really doesn't matter. The date needs to be what you want it to be. But I want you to understand what the date is used for and how it's leveraged here in the system. And so if you go and do a stock status report, if you go and do like an inventory report, and you say, hey, I want to know from all of January what did I buy? What was my what happened with this inventory item? This date, depending on where you pick it, is going to affect that. And so here it is. So what's the date? The 25th, April 25th. And so let's say that I did an inventory count back on the 31st, and I went through and found that I was missing a few of these items. If I go and click here versus here, it's going to affect the cost. Well, it can affect the cost in some ways. And the reason for that is if I bought, in the previous video we went over a little bit when we're adding stock on average unit cost, and how, as you buy more materials, as you buy more items and you put them into the system, that average unit price is calculated every single time. And so if during this time period you've bought and sold and you've added stock in these different areas, your average unit price is going to be different depending on when you actually input this in. What is the bearing in the real world? Probably not much. Unless you've got some parts that are wildly swinging, where it's, it can be a difference of $1,000 to, $10,000 depending on when you buy it. That may be something that you want to take into consideration. Because the idea of adjusting quantity is that something went wrong, right? You're either adjusting the quantity and adding quantity because you miscounted. Maybe you thought you had 10, but you actually went back and found 11. You looked behind an old box and hey, there's a part right there, and you go ahead and add that back in. Or the other thing you're going to do is you're going to subtract it and lower the quantity, and that can be the same for the same reason. It can be that you just you misplaced some quantity, or there was a miscount, or it can account for shrinkage. And so now if in this first week I did a count and found I was missing one, and at that time they were $1,000 parts, but then the next week I went and bought some more, and all of a sudden they're $10,000 parts. Well, now you go and look at your report, and depending on what date you picked to do this inventory count and this inventory adjustment, it can be the difference between being out $1,000 and being out $10,000, or having $1,000 more or $10,000 more stock than you thought you had. So that's you don't really need to overthink it, but I just want you to be aware of what this date is and kind of what if I'm putting this on the 25th and then I go and run the report for the previous month, and I'm sitting there going, well, I know I added that adjustment. Why can't I see it? Well, you can't see it because you put it in April. Or maybe you said, oh yeah, I actually did that count on the 31st, and then you're looking there and you're looking in April going, hey, I didn't adjust that quantity. Well, you did, but you selected the date in March. And so just keep that in mind. So once you select the date, it's going to show you the current quantity, and you're just going to enter the new quantity. So if I say, let's say I went and I counted and I was like, oh man, whoops, I have 38. I've looked all over. I can't find these other 2 tires. I'm going to give a reason and just say, hey, stock shrinkage. Somebody just hauled off with some tires. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I've got 38, and you can see that my total inventory price has come down. And it went down the amount of those 2 tires times the unit price. And that's where I'm talking about what we talked about just a few minutes ago, where that unit price, again, is recalculated every time you add stock. And so if you don't select that date correctly, that unit price can result in a different ending quantity price. But that's basically it. You can easily go back and you can adjust quantity. You can go back and say, oh, whoops, never mind. Hey, I found those 2 tires. Found them. And you see right there, we went right back up to our previous value. We've got our 40 tires again. You can see it's very easy and very quick to do this. So when you go and do your inventory counts, you can quickly come back here and adjust it and make sure that your inventory is accurate.